In a lot of ways, I sort of regret including Pizza Tower in my Wario video. Discussing the game in any capacity in that video, especially as a finale, sort of implied I saw its nature to be inseparable from Wario, even if I clarified otherwise. This can't be further from the truth, especially in the game's final, complete state. Having followed the game's development, build releases, and changes pretty closely since 2019, I was fully aware that the priorities of the game were shifting away from Wario, despite its roots in those fundamentals. However, everyone else was referring to Pizza Tower adjacent to Wario Land, so it made me feel like it was my duty to include it in some way in such a grand-scale video. I even referenced the game as a spiritual successor to Wario Land 4, which just seems stupid now. Pizza Tower, first and foremost, is itself. It's its own thing, and none of its influences, surface level or otherwise, bring it down into the easy, comparative internet discussion gel that Suds, who apparently love the game, insist on dragging it into. I attempted to divert discussion away from Wario when bringing it up in the last video by introducing it with Earthworm Jim and Jazz Jackrabbit, but I repeatedly went back to Wario when describing the game, which, in hindsight, felt wrong. I don't mean to imply I feel this gay urge to right my wrongs relating to how I initiated discussion of the game. I really do just want to chat about what I think of it for a bit. I've played it 10 times over at this point and even started running the any % category, which has been a lot of fun. I guess I wasn't expecting to care as much about the game as I do now, but it's got pretty much everything I want in a platformer of this caliber. But I really want to avoid that kind of reductive dialogue regarding the game. You know, like, I don't want to see a single comment comparing this game to Wario, and especially not Sonic. It would be unfair to praise Pizza Tower exclusively on the merits of how it does things better than the games you perceive it to be similar to. It's a very intentionally crafted game, one I think deserves a better conversation, so that's what I'm gonna give it. It's not one of those shitty Wario-likes you bastards keep talking about. It's fucking Pizza Tower! The game starts you out in this lobby area, which I really like. You can enter a tutorial stage from this room, but you have all the time in the world to mess around with the controls before you do that, which is appreciated. Pizza Tower is, in part, a strange game because a lot of the information about it has been split between the numerous builds that have been released. A lot of the hype from this game kicked off from the 2019 Sage build, but there were a ton of others as well. I imagine a lot of people were exposed to Pizza Tower through earlier builds, and were shocked how different it was now. Level design, music, the way Peppino, our little pizza chef protag here, controls, it's all changed a lot over the years. Old builds you can still download feel like a completely different experience to the final product, so starting the game out in this little lobby gives the player enough time to figure out what changed or remained from their most associated build. It helps too that the tutorial is so damn good. I feel like there's a distinct lack of this kind of control conveyance in modern games, even indies. Most newer games have these horrendous context-sensitive mechanics that need tutorials that pause the experience throughout the entire runtime, and it really halts the flow. Pizza Tower has these context-sensitive mechanics, but tutorials for their controls just appear on the screen as you're playing. Y'all play Hi-Fi Rush? It was kinda bad. No, it was really bad. It was developed by Tango Gameworks, a company founded by Shinji Mikami. Mikami is kind of a fucking legend out here. He's a really creatively driven guy. He directed Resident Evil 4 and helped write Killer 7 the same year, two of the coolest games of all time. Oh, and then the year after that he put out God Hand.
This place reeks.
Wait, you don't expect me to mop up, do you?
Come on, those guys are cake.
Not to mention, much sexier than you.
Which is like, as close as we'll get to a perfect game. Beyond all that though, Mikami had a hand in a lot of Capcom projects, and is a big reason why a lot of these cult games exist in the first place. When he left the company in 2006, there was a lot of speculation and discussion online about why. The consensus at the time was that he didn't want to be stuck answering to the Resident Evil machine, especially after the success of 4. People like to spin this tale that Mikami left because he didn't want to port RE4 to PS2, since he supposedly saw it as, quote, an inferior console compared to the GameCube. This is kind of a dumb speculative thing though, because God Hand was exclusive to PS2, and he was making that shit under Clover. Despite being a subsidiary of Capcom, Mikami really didn't have to answer to any of its executives working for Clover. God Hand was a game made under the intention that Mikami could do whatever he wanted, so if he really didn't want to put it on PS2, he probably didn't have to. I know he was under time constraints and a budget, but the PS3 came out a month after God Hand. Why wouldn't he just request a PS3 dev kit if he really hated the PS2 so much? If the rift between him and Capcom came from his refusal to adapt something he made that he felt pride into that hardware, I doubt he'd just shit out a masterpiece on it the very next year, especially under the same company. It wasn't just a paycheck to him. That's like if I didn't want to cook my snickerdoodle Pop-Tart in the toaster, but I refuse to use the toaster oven. Like, I'm not that obstinate. Hey, if I may go on a tangent here, people like to regurgitate this line Mikami supposedly said about porting RE4 a lot. And this whole, if Resident Evil 4 comes to a console other than the GameCube, I'll cut my head off shit. If someone wants to prove me wrong about this in the comments, be my guest, but yeah, I don't think he fucking said this. Every usage of it I can find has no citation, and there's no original print of whatever publication he said this to. Despite this is constantly in conversation when discussing why he left Capcom, but there's no fucking source.
I shouldn't have to ask.
Lies like this used to get passed around a lot in gaming magazines. You just sorta had to trust what these things said because nothing else seemed valid or official. Remember Ermac? Shang Long? Fucking Sonic and Melee? It's annoying. Shit like this still happens. I ran into this problem when researching for the Wario video. This Anthony JC guy loved spreading misinformation in 2005? This dubious jet ski riding schmuck wrote these lies about Wario in 2005, and we're still getting it wrong in 2023? I had to get rid of a couple lines from my script after double checking my research, but still, it's crazy to me that unsourced misinfo from so long ago can just go unchecked and become a part of the zeitgeist. This Mikami thing is a special case though, since the phrase Mikami's head shows up in a couple of his projects. It first showed up in God Hand as a name for a chihuahua in one of the minigames, and that game came out after RE4 on PS2, so it could be a joke on this quote, and I could be wrong, but if you want to know what I think the dude was just getting fatigued, really. RE4, Killer 7, and God Hand were huge projects, and Mikami had this constant drive about him. He didn't stop working for like 9 years. Everyone needs a break. It took him 4 years to put another game out after he stopped. I think the dude just wanted to take a nap anywhere but under his office desk. God Hand didn't sell well, and Mikami dove into the project knowing that would be the result. It was a game made without numbers, demographic, and marketing in mind. He just wanted to use the bank Capcom made off RE4 to make something he really wanted to. Young devs making the games they want to was the foundation of Tango, and I struggle to think of anyone other than Mikami capable of directing a studio with that kind of genuine soul. Mikami's not really a business guy though, so Tango got immediately bought out by ZeniMax. Kind of a bad omen for the studio, which was fulfilled recently by Mikami stepping down. Not before Hi-Fi Rush, though. Shit's making people hi-fi gush, man. Shit looks like hi-fi mush, man. Before I get into talking about this game, I want to mention that I know virtually nothing about making music. I'm going to be using a lot of surface-level terminology to discuss this shit, so I apologize if certain things come off wrong or idiotic. I'm not pretending to be the oracle of this, okay?
The Pizza Oracle? There is no Pizza Oracle, Scar.
Pizza? Hi-Fi Rush kinda didn't have anything backing it. It just sorta came out one day and everyone was talking about how awesome it was. No trailers leading to release, no press interviews, no nothing. It was jarring. All that praise because the environment bounced on beat? Newsflash, everyone. -8 did that shit ages ago, and I've been jerking it on pace ever since. Everyone was speaking so positively about it through word of mouth, and I'll be honest, I was kind of intrigued. You don't see that kind of reception often, so whatever. I got nothing to do, so I'll just go to the 99-cent store, get a Game Pass card, and try it out. Let's give it a fair shake. Damn, what is it with Game Pass being $1 so often? Hey, remember the 99-cent store? Oh, man.
I said next.
Huh?
Shy, is it?
Yep.
Profession, rock star?
Future rockstar.
Oh my god. Our guy Chai here's kind of a fucking poser. He's the kind of guy who's only attached to music as an idea and doesn't give a fuck about it in any meaningful way beyond that. He probably has a Last.fm account where he idly scrabbles shit so he can send his profile to girls he wants to impress online. Either that or all his top albums are video game OSTs he listens to on YouTube. If he sat this dipshit down and made him listen to anything even remotely challenging or interesting, I'd think he'd piss himself. Like if one of these non-binary rate your music liberal arts majors he's chasing ever got him to listen to Big Black or something, he'd clasp his hands over his ears and go la 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 la. He probably claims to like jazz when people bring it up, but in his head, jazz is the music he heard in Persona 5 before quitting out to the PS3 menu to listen to U2 and Creed in the music folder. He's the type of guy to say he likes music that sounds good. He buys band shirts he thinks look cool at Spencer's, and when people ask him about it, he dodges completely with a, "Yeah, their early stuff was so sick, but I'm not really into their new stuff." You just know he's listening to Pinkerton on YouTube and commenting, "Damn, anyone else realize how kinda fucked up this album is?" He's definitely all, "Noise isn't real music." Noise? Listen, I'm not the biggest music guy either, but at least I'm not pretending. I'd much rather be a poser about video games anyway. That's a fight I can handle. I'd bend Chai over my knee. He doesn't even play guitar. He doesn't even want to try. This rockstar thing isn't an actual career goal or something he wants to strive for. It's a fucking dream. He probably only wants to be one so bad because he knows people think they're cool. You know what? There is no probably. That's word for word how the director proudly describes him. I don't want to play as this dude. His fucking arm's broken. Oh, okay. You get some points for having a cool robot arm. Psych. Can't beat Nero.
Get her up, crew cut. You taking notes?
I was initially going to delve a bit into the history of Hi-Fi's development, director, and staff, but I think I've already relayed enough shit you can Google. At most, I'll be referring to this one interview we have that dropped a while ago, so let's stop wasting time on context. Hi-Fi Rush is a rhythm action game, which, if you played any of this type of action game at all, you know that they're all kind of rhythm games. Games like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta orient the rhythm of the player toward the flow of the combat and combos, and sometimes even utilize dynamic music to perpetuate this flow. There's a really heavy focus on juggling enemies too, which has its own inherent rhythm. It's never about hitting the buttons to the beat of the music, it's about creating your own beat while abiding by the timing required for specific moves in combat. Hi-Fi Rush orients the rhythm aspect of these games more traditionally, strengthening your attacks depending on if you're hitting your buttons on time with the beat of the song. The game even displays a rhythm visualizer on the bottom of the screen, making it, on the surface, a genuine mix of rhythm and action. This game's kinda themed all around music, or at least it tries to, but we'll get to all that in a bit. As potentially interesting as this gameplay premise sounds, it immediately starts to fall apart in execution. In traditional rhythm games, execution of an action is tied strictly to the timing of the button press, and score is dictated on how far or close that press was to the rhythm. Like I said before, in Hi-Fi Rush, attacks are strengthened when hitting the button on beat, but they happen on beat regardless of your timing. If you hit the button too early or too late, Chai'll swing his tacky little guitar around right on beat. This creates a very apparent and really bothersome desync between the action happening on screen and my own input. This almost feels like a mistake. It was intended for ease and accessibility, but it always feels bad. It makes landing button presses on beat unsatisfying. There's fucking input delay settings in this game, but they don't matter one bit if the actions and animations are tied to the BPM this way. Sorry, I'm trying to work on my anger. I don't want to be like one of those guys. I think they should have called this game Hi-Fi Shush, because I'd like nothing more than for the game to shut up.
If I'm getting this right... First, music player in my chest. Pretty sure that's not supposed to be there. Second... Okay, whoa. It's powering up my new robot arm.
Being cocky isn't gonna get you out of it. This is 808. My source said the gameplay never had a project under wraps like that. Your friend girls all over this.
Quit snapping your fingers, Chai. Pick up a damn ukulele if you're gonna be a fruit about it. Turn it off! What? You can turn off the music? This is a rhythm game. What's the point? Sure, it's cool to be able to maintain your rhythm with the music off through the environment being one big beat visualizer, but is this game forgetting what it is? They licensed out 9 Inch Nails and Number Girl for this. It's trying to be a rhythm game. Why would you let me turn that aspect off? Here's the thing, other rhythm games let you do this, and Hi-Fi Rush isn't just a rhythm game, there's that whole action thing, right? So on the surface, this would seem like the game is giving the player the option to prioritize the action or the rhythm, yeah? In reality, this just further complicates this game's feedback issues. It becomes a gameplay problem. Disregarding the discord between how combat actions interact with the game's BPM, this game is kinda mixed like doo-doo. I intuitively want to play the game to the music, that's just how this works, but when every action is supplemented by not only a guitar strum, but also these little heys or sha, The music can easily get drowned out. You need sound design in a game like this to be done right for the sake of your player's flow state. You might be saying, well, duh, turn the sound effects down, genius.
Ugly little
And yeah, you're right, but why should I have to? Maybe this sounds elitist, but why is it up to the player to tune these attributes to create the optimal play experience? That's the job of the designers, no? Old games often don't have sound options like this, and seldom is it ever a problem. This insistence on accessibility really bothers me lately. Accessibility options like this can be great, and they usually are. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to tune the music in hi-fi or anything, I just mean you shouldn't have to. We'll talk more about accessibility later, but I think taking priority in things like this is a little strange. Inclusions of options like this hurt no one, but it can open the door to designers foregoing fine-tuning and polishing stages of things integral to the gameplay, which, trust me, we'll talk about later. It usually isn't a big deal, but in such a specific game like Hi-Fi, you have to get this right. It displays a sort of incompetence to the game's entire gameplay premise. They can't even get the mixing right in this auditory game. What's compelling me to keep playing at this point? It doesn't help that the characters won't shut up.
You did not mention volcanoes, Peppermint!
Usually that's implied when talking about magma.
Oh my god.
You did not mention volcanoes, Peppermint.
Aesthetics are a pretty important pillar for Hi-Fi Rush. It takes an obvious pride in how it presents itself, and despite my distaste for the game, there's a lot to marvel at in terms of some of the techniques it uses. This game snaps really seamlessly between gameplay, in-engine cutscenes, and 2D fully animated scenes pretty frequently. I never notice a cut or a loading screen between them. It truly is seamless, and I'm really curious how they pulled it off. They must have hidden the loading really well, or just had some engineering genius on the team. Cutscenes in modern games that are rendered out this way often have this awful compression to them, but Hi-Fi pulls it off losslessly, which is especially impressive with how it transitions between the two styles. And you know, as much as I'm not a fan of these 2D cutscenes visually, they're animated really smoothly and have some great impact to them at times. So, good job on that! I think this game is kind of a stylistic trap, though. The director cites all these genuinely involved, groundbreaking, and lightning-in-a-bottle pieces of media as the team's inspiration and guiding force behind the project. Shit like Beautiful Joe, Spider-Verse, Fooly Cooly, but the way their inspiration shows through in the final product is really surface level. If they really studied these things hard, I'm curious what the staff would point to about the game's visuals that make it so Spider-Verse. Ooh! We got chromatic aberration and animated our characters on 2s and at 24 frames a second. Ah! I'm the ghost of a 20-something-year-old phony! Ah! Like, Spider-Verse's character animation works so well because it's attempting to uphold the keyframe structure of a comic book. What's this game's intentions in looking like that? It's cool? That's just not enough for me, sorry. Apparently, Fooly Cooly is what made them want to include 2D animation in the game, and of all the stupid takeaways you could get out of watching Fooly Cooly, I can't believe they landed on it's animated. Duh! That's somehow worse than all these basement-dwelling, popcorn-shoveling consumer freaks who won't shut up about how Mamimi gave them their first boner.
Fooly Cooly, I think, is one of the most energetic shows I have ever seen in my life, in all honesty. It's very fun, and I watched the dub in Japanese.
What? This is what you look like when you're watching one of the most fun things you've ever seen in your life? This guy killed his family. He's still in jail. What else does he like?
I liked it. What can I really say?
Oh man, I like Mekalani Melancholia Haruhi Suzumiya. You guys think I'd be capable of planning something like Mr. Anime? Like, could I get on the news? Comment down below what form of domestic terrorism you guys want to see next. If you're interested in any of these supposed influences, you'd know there was a lot of intention, skill, and happenstance that went into them being the way they are. Maybe I'm being a big gay guy here, but Hi-Fi purposefully aping surface-level attributes of these really soulful projects feels kinda predatory to me. Like, I'm sure the team isn't faking their appreciation or admiration for these things, but they clearly don't approach it with any tact. And I guess they don't have to? Just feels like they made a big list of things they thought people of a specific modern cult community thought were cool, and decided to make it as painfully, shallowly obvious it was catering to them. Higher-ups at Bethesda most likely saw the kind of demographic Hi-Fi was pushing for to be profitable, so I wouldn't be surprised if that was the only reason the game got greenlit. It's like cult corporate in disguise. What's weird about all this, though, is that the pandering didn't even work. Despite all the praise from people online, Hi-Fi Rush underperformed at launch since the game had virtually no marketing. All the people regurgitating and choking on their own spit while saying the words Sunset Overdrive and Jet Set Radio just wasn't enough to push the game into a commercial mass of people. The whole thing feels like a psyop. Kinda like Sandy Hook. We're on the same page about that, right? Okay, listen, I'm sorry for all the shooter kid jokes, alright? I don't know what's going on with me. I'll stop, I promise. Say, let's talk about Jet Set Radio.
The music just turns me on.
Jet Set Radio and Hi-Fi are both cel-shaded, but JSR has more of a focus on color usage. I don't note JSR's lighting or cartoonish outlines as the defining characteristics of its art style. Most of its appeal to me has to do with color, especially in its sequel, Future. Every level has a specific tone that's being conveyed through purposeful decisions in the color of the skybox and textures of the surrounding area. Sure, sometimes it can look oversaturated, but overall it constructs a really feel-good atmosphere, which is what JSR is all about. Hi-Fi claims JSR as one of its visual inspirations, but that game has kind of a bad color philosophy. There's no theming. Everywhere feels pretty samey, which just isn't the case in JSR. Even when places feel similar in terms of palette, the architecture and structure of these levels set them apart. I've always loved that JSR was a pretty warm game visually, and that Future opposed this by being a little bit cooler with a more desaturated focus on greens and blues. JSR's Tokyo To always gave me the impression that it was really hot outside, like I was skating around in the middle of summer. Future's Tokyo To, especially in places like Dogenzaka Hill, always seemed a little chillier, like the seasons were shifting to fall. I like that kind of artistic display a lot. It distracts me away from the fact that I kinda hate JSR. Well, I hate playing it, and I hate talking about it, but I don't think I hate it overall. There's a lot of really cool aspects to the series that I attach to, but trying to hold the discussion with anyone who apparently loves these games is like pulling teeth. Most of the time it's because they haven't even played the game, let alone beaten it. And, you know, I don't blame them. I used to be one of these guys as a kid. I would tout JSR all around as one of my favorite games, but I never played it. Once I did, I fucking hated it. It's not what I wanted it to be at all. It's not even how it was explained to me. All I knew was that I loved the music and dem graphics. If you want to know how I feel now, though, I think Naganuma should get his nose out of the sound library. I'm trying to get to sleep. JSR really isn't a tough game to talk about, and it's good in its own right, but I feel like this is one of those things people have just convinced themselves. Conversations about this game are often directed strangely, like there's some misconceptions about what this game is. This wouldn't be the case if most people just played it, but they just don't. And even if they did, they made up their mind before playing it, so it's not like that'll do any good. If you think I'm starting to sound like a hater, you'd be right. I fucking hate you. I know I had to walk off the platform to fit into the gap, okay? I made a mistake. Kiss my ass. It feels like the reputation of JSR is a better one than what makes up its actual identity. The game released during the height of the extreme sports game craze, and it feels like it's definitely trying to tap into that market, but its bones can't support itself. Smilebit, the game's studio, consisted of a bunch of really young, passionate devs. These dudes weren't fogies. They knew skating, music, and graffiti especially were all cornerstones of a kind of counterculture. The community and sense of rebellion that emanates from all these things have the power and potential to make for a really loud and important advocation of this culture in the format of a video game. Instead of embracing this, JSR starts with a vandalism warning. Boo! I'm tagging walls because it's a crime. Fuck the pigs! I got pulled over last month for going 50 and a 25. It's not like anyone was in any danger. I'd like to see them catch me on my fucking nitro skates. I hate how they word this shit too. Graffiti is art. However, as if art as vandalism absolves it of any artistic nature, JSR is just a little misunderstood. And I don't even mean it in a negative way, but not in a positive way either. The general dialogue about this game is just uninformed, which I guess is pretty apt for a Sega game. You ready for this? It's kinda like Sonic!
Yeah, I know. We said it last time. Fucking deal with it. Fucking bitch.
I think it's time I actually gave this bastard some direct attention. Sonic is kinda like the kid you were friends with in high school who in hindsight kinda bullied you. He's never around when you need him, but he's always there when you don't want him to be. You see him at your grocery cashier job as an adult and you go, no, Sonic? And that's when you find out he sells insurance or some shit now. I love him, he's my fucking guy. He's gonna be around forever, that retirement check will never get written. He's constantly chasing industry trends while still attempting to pander to his own evolving demographic, and it either works or it doesn't. No matter what this dude's chasing though, he's bound to be scrutinized for being a chaser in the first place, but it'll never tear him down. It constructs a weird rhetoric around a lot of his games where the misinformed, misguided opinion of one guy echoes off the balcony to 1,000 others, which is what creates the mass opinion. As much as I like him, a lot of the soul gets kinda sucked out of Sonic when I remember he's just an ad for the 90s. He's like a total marketing wash-up. Sonic's got way more commercial misses than hits, and I think that's part of what makes him so fascinating to me. Those misses are often unanimously agreed upon so quickly and straight up ignored unless for a cheap shot or easy demerit. Personally, I like to investigate these misses and treat them as they are, and oftentimes that investigation results in a budding, genuine love for what is so reviled. Even I have my limits though, I'm not touching Labyrinth. Everyone's got their own personal hat in the ring and structured way of approaching the conversation, but the overall majority of these guys aren't as experienced, passionate, or stupid as I am. So I'm gonna put my own spin on this Sonic shit, alright? You might be asking yourself, and it's a good question, so don't feel bad for raising your hand. What's he gonna talk about? Advance 2? CD? Is he giving us secret rings? Better than all that, I'm gonna be talking about one of the most controversial, underrated, underappreciated, overrated, overlooked, overcooked. That's right, we're talking about Overcooked, baby! Sonic Adventure 2 is a game I had to learn to love. I played this game when I was pretty young, and I remember quitting right before the end of Hero's Story. Knuckles' levels gave me a headache. You can't play as Amy in this one, and I wasn't allowed to look at Rouge. Now that I'm an adult, though, and have been unleashed from the anti-masturbation cross, it just feels fair to give SA2 another shot. I really love SA1, so the changes they made to Sonic's physics in SA2 always deterred me. I even felt it in my recent playthrough. There's a lot of emphasis on utilizing slopes to your advantage to gain crazy height and distance in SA2, which always felt like an interesting iteration. SA2? That shit's in SA1, brother. There's a lot of emphasis on utilizing slopes to your advantage to gain crazy height and distance in SA1, which always felt like an interesting iteration on the classic games to me. SA1 executes this really well. This is just a quick example, but I really love this bit and speed highway with this slope directed toward an elevated bell. If you wanted to, you could run around these enemies and jump up this set of stairs to get you progressing, but this is boo-boo, and only pussies do this. If you're anybody who's anybody, you charge a spin dash on this slope and jump at the edge of it to get enough height to cross the gap leading to the bell. This is a faster and just generally more involved option. SA1's level design prioritizes this everywhere in a really intentional way. That aspect of the game's been talked about to death already, but what I used to think was a shame was that SA2 reinvented Sonic's controls to mitigate this kind of play. Playing the two games back to back, the gameplay flow of both adventure games are pretty opposing. There's more of a focus on just tackling the obstacle ahead of you effectively on SA2, whereas SA1 encourages you to be creative with its geometry. If SA1 is about rolling around, SA2 is about directing Sonic while he runs. This is a little unrelated, but I love his run animation in this game a lot. Shadow's lamer than Sonic because he looks too cool while he's running. It's too effortless. Also, Shadow doesn't even get the bounce bracelet, which rules. But you know, I don't really know much about Shadow, so I reached out to the guy to get his take on his gameplay differences. He didn't even pick up. SA2 gets really fun once you start going for A ranks. Every level becomes a little puzzle you have to solve for score and speed. There's a bunch of weird misbeliefs about Sonic's gameplay, particularly his speed, that piss me off. This isn't just relative to SA2, I'm talking about every Sonic game. Everyone's always talking about Sonic's speed. I feel bad for the guy, he'll never live down how fast he is. Everyone's all, speed's supposed to be a reward. Oh no, speed is supposed to be earned. People have been talking like this since the Big Bang. It's what fucking Judas and Jesus were talking about before Judas came out and they arrested Jesus for some reason. Judas was all, oh, I really liked Sonic Heroes, and Jesus was like, dude, what the heck are you talking about? It's Sega's own fault. They've been advertising this guy off the speed gimmick for decades. In reality, there really is no one way Sonic should be, but there are a lot of ways he has been and will continue to be. All of his games have different ideas on how to iterate on his speed, and SA2 does this with an interesting mix of things that stop you, push you forward, or just look cool. I used to hate this, but I'm a more patient guy now, and I really appreciate how pinpoint Sonic feels in this game. He's a little wily at times, but they circumvent this with a lot of cool set pieces that don't require you to do much, but they're always satisfying to play through or just watch. The classic games have a lot of this too, but it's not so frequent in SA1. Stuff like the slide down from the sky in Metal Harbor, the beginning of Final Rush, or the truck chase from City Escape are great. You'll pretty much always make it through no problem, but there's always some little trick that lets you optimize your time. Timing your jump off the rails in Final Rush just right is a must for every play session, and these jumps off the ramps during the truck chase feel like sex when you actually hit them. They're both awesome tricks to practice. The game is at its best when it's prioritizing path to gameplay optimization like this. Metal Harbor's A rank is so fucked, but it's the best level in the game because of that. This little rail grind at the beginning is so cathartic, man. They really got it right the first time with rails in SA2. A wise man once said, "There's nothing I hate more in video games than automatic rail grinding. If your game has automatic rail grinding, it's a bad game. It's retarded." As groundbreaking of a statement as this is, I think he was only kind of right. As we all know, initiated rail grinding is an inherently more engaging design option than automatic rail grinding because it ups the player's APM, actions per minute. Something like Tony Hawk, where you need to push a button to attach to a rail and then subsequently balance your movements to maintain that state, are maxing out their APM. That's the name of the game. Something like, I don't know, Jet Set Radio? Wait, no, I already went on that tangent. The Sonic Frontiers, where all you need to do to function in your grind state is touch the rail and you automatically move forward. It's really boring. It's making me fall asleep. I think Sonic Adventure 2 is the best of both worlds in this regard. To connect to a rail, you only need to touch it, and movement forward on one is automatic, but it's also relative to the rail's slope and turn. If you're on a downward slanted slope, you can hold B and lean the stick into the turn to accelerate yourself. Fuck this motion up and it's off the rail. Granted, it's a little tough to fall off the rail, but it's really easy to slow down on one by accident, which you don't want. There's a gameplay shift to being on a rail that still perpetuates and encourages speed, which I really like. It helps that jumping off a rail carries your momentum in a specific way. Momentum. Yeah, We're gonna be saying that a lot, sorry. Sonic Frontiers tries to do something similar with rail jumps, which I'll get into in a sec, but rails function rudimentally in that game. Initiating a rail grind is as easy as jumping, just like in SA2, but your speed on the rail is static. It's relative to how fast you are traveling pre-rail attachment, and is unchanging depending on the rail's upward or downward slope or turn. This has been the standard for modern Sonic games for a long time, and the answer they propose is the boost. Tap the button once and Sonic's max speed will immediately increase, speeding you up on the rail. You don't even gotta hold it. This is kinda lame, though. There's no engagement to speeding up on a rail, and definitely no challenge. Maintaining your speed is sort of a gimme. This kind of rail design works in the previous Sonic games since rails are often just part of the hallway obstacle course design. It works really well in Unleashed for flow, but Frontiers is a way more open game. Rails are often just an automatic means of getting you somewhere higher up or farther away so you don't have to run to get there, like a fast travel of sorts. I think applying rails in this way isn't a horrible idea, but I wish Sonic had more states he could enter off of a rail. In SA2, you can jump off one, launch yourself off the end, or fall off, and all of these states affect your flow in some way. The only state you can enter off a rail in Frontiers without any outside influences like an enemy is this weird boost jump you can do. It's ironic. This is actually one of the faster ways to get around in the open world, but also one of the easiest to pull off. All you need to do is boost and jump off a rail on an incline, and Sonic will launch super fast and far away depending on your angle. Usually I appreciate this kind of technique, but giving the player easy traversal options like this that lack any sort of active engagement on their end seemed sort of reductive for a game like this. I want to utilize my entire moveset to travel, not just one or two options. Sure, there are ways to utilize other context-sensitive moves to promote cool travel, but they all feel like design overlooks or unintended. Using combat moves to travel around would have been really cool if it were intended. It reminds me of something like the kick from Sonic Advance 2. When Frontiers was being advertised, I remember seeing a video of this cool little jump flip off a platform Sonic could do. After I saw that, I freaked the fuck out at the possibilities of a trick system based around momentum, and hoped to God they'd take notes from Advance and apply those sensibilities to a 3D game, but upon release, it was the bare minimum. You run off a platform, enter a sparkle state, and the only things you can really do is flick the right stick to gain EXP or press jump to push forward a bit. You can prep a drop dash from that extra jump, but the drop dash fucking sucks in this game. It sets your speed lower than the max you get from running, and again, it's unchanging. I really don't know why they were so insistent on making this game lack dynamic physics like that. It's really odd. As the player, I'm forced to break the game in order to travel as fast as the game wants me to believe I can, and it puts a bad taste in my mouth. Whatever though, the drop dash kinda sucks in general. I don't really like any option that gives Sonic a more immediate way to gain speed, unless the game is tailor-made to promote that instant speed. Games like Unleashed, Advance 2, or Rush Adventure, where you're sort of barreling through these levels at top speeds, will throw things at you that are hard to react to, but not impossible. Every obstacle feels like a QuickTime event with no button notation. It's fucking awesome. It's a design philosophy that directly supports the instantaneous or continuous nature of speed, its flow. Games like Generations, Frontiers, or Colors have these instant speed mechanics, but the actual structure of the games can't support it. Instant speed has been the alternative to the toil of making speed in Sonic games ever since Sonic 2, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan. I'll take the potential of making speed with speed shoes and inclines in Sonic 1 any day over pressing one button 6 times to get the same result in Sonic 2. I'm not even really talking about applying speed, I'm just talking about making it. One of my favorite Sonic games is CD, and you can make speed instantly in that game, but it's more so about maintaining that instant speed, since there's applications of it beyond getting to the end fast. Anyway, Frontiers isn't a total lost cause game or anything. Yo, secret rigs, yo! I had fun cracking open some of cyberspace, even if they are just shittier versions of old levels. Sonic controls differently in cyberspace than on the islands, and it opens the door to a lot of really fun purposeful tricks. I love this air boost you can do off a homing attack, and boosting in the air in general works very differently to the previous games, and it's fun to work with. They seem like they're committing to the Frontier style, and honestly, I just hope Sonic Team's able to iterate on it and make another really great Sonic. I like when they add to Sonic's world instead of take shit away. I hope they keep that up. The best parts of Frontiers were when I got to see Sonic and Sage interact. Sage's role as a character creates an interesting dynamic between herself, Sonic, and Eggman that's a joy to watch.
Sonic!
I know. You're not fast enough, so I found it for you. Go ahead and beat that giant! Don't you dare lose it!
Now why would I want to disappoint you?
Aw, he's cute! I wish he sounded like that all the time. That was a good line read, Roger. Sega games are full of these cute, charming, weird line deliveries. It's a lot of what I associate with the company.
Oh, a big one!
The only reason I replayed Jet Set Radio recently was because I was dying to hear that, yeah! You know, they're like, get ready, you know? Hey, speaking of Yu Suzuki, one of my all-time favorite, if not my absolute favorite, Sega games, Shenmue, is just 100% this stilted, funny awkwardness, and it takes itself completely seriously.
Little suede-headed yo. Please don't call me little suede-headed yo.
People mock Shenmue for this, but I think it's fucking awesome. People cite Sonic for being charming when it does this, but for some reason everything else is exempt.
No way! You're working with Landy?
Be nice to Ryo, guys. He's not like us. He's, you know, eccentric. A little quirky. Dude's autistic. He has a Sega Saturn. The hell you playing on there, Ryo? Oh, I know this. It's Silhouette Mirage, a Koichi Kimura produced classic. Maybe I'll turn on some Guardian Heroes after this game. Or, how about some Rayman? Hazuki, I don't want to play Rayman. Fukusan, it sucks balls. And I'm not talking about basketballs, Hazuki. I'm talking about testicles. And the music sounds like something Ine-san would listen to. What's up with that? This game was made in 1996, not 1884.
Idiot.
This odd charm within Shenmue is injected into Yakuza really well. You can tell how Toshihiro Nagoshi thought Shenmue's DNA should be applied to future projects. Nagoshi worked as a co-director during the final months of Shenmue. Despite wanting to be rid of it so bad, he asked for his own division, but the end product came out iconically ambitious. The unintentionally faux, goofy, all-serious nature is a backbone of Yakuza's tone, and I especially love it in Lost Judgment. For a game about the Japanese student suicide crisis, it's never really afraid to joke around or be a little lighthearted, which I love. One of the best lines in the game is a joke about sexual assault, and it somehow doesn't come off as insensitive at all.
Truly awful. And I do sympathize. I've also had to turn in an abuser like that. Personally speaking, some men can't wait to debase themselves at the first opportunity.
Why would you say that and look at me?
Lost Judgment as a whole is a game full of things that seem like it was made for me. Yagami's got that look I'm going for. Combat's just a faster version of Yakuza. There's a photo mode you can use in inappropriate places, rival characters that respect each other, cats roam around and you have to pet them and remember their names and stuff. gave me a scorpion? What the Kaito is voiced by Kyon. Shenmue and Yakuza are always full of this kind of extra design. I always loved that all the Sega games you could play and figures you could buy in Shenmue were Suzuki related exclusively. There's just so many little optional things to miss that truthfully don't add much to the game, but the attention to detail makes the experience all the more wonderful. Attention to detail or optional useless events in games really make my day. I'm gonna stick to calling it extra design. Resident Evil 4, on top of being such an involved game by virtue, is full of extra design like this. I've been playing the original with some friends recently and have been really enjoying it, but aside from shooting projectiles away mid-air and all the awesome combat, I'm really digging how intentionally crafted the game is. At the start of the game, I turned around to talk to the police that ride with you because I thought these guys were funny.
Forget your makeup or something?
My friend who's played the game a bunch was shocked when they actually responded to me, and I think it's cool how something like that can never come across a veteran's playthroughs. The whole game is just like that, especially in the beginning. After you get ambushed in the starting house, if you return to the car, you can find it totaled in the chasm. There's a cutscene for it you have to enable and everything. You'd think the policeman just died in the attack or something, but you actually see them dispersed later. The game didn't need to acknowledge what happened to these two nobodies, but it does, and it makes the world feel full. The bridge is also destroyed, so this scene works as a sort of go arrow for the player. It's something you'd never see unless you were playing the game like an E3 demo or something, which I tend to do a lot on initial playthroughs of games. Some of the treasure puzzles in this game even operate off of this kind of real-world logical thinking. Like, oh, Leon says this water's dirty. I should cover this well with this board so the treasure doesn't get mucked up. It's a marvel to me there's even so much to interact with. I've only beaten the game about one time, but I'm sure I've missed over 1 million secrets and tricks despite exploring so much. I love that bit when Mendez kicks the shit out of you and walks into another room. Chapter ends, and the game positions you where you need to go to exit. If you turn around and enter the room Mendez did, he kicks the shit out of you again, and Ada Wong shows up for the first time in the fucking game. What balls to introduce a major character to the story in a missable cutscene. The game is always letting you know where you need to go, but allowing you to reject it anyway, and it fucking rules. It's fulfilling even if the reward for rejecting progression is a cutscene where you get to see Leon almost die. You really don't see this kind of thing in games anymore. Maybe I'm nostalgia blind for this era, but it feels like attention to detail is so full frontal now that there's no room for more secretive stuff like this. Either that or modern games are too context sensitive to take this kind of player freedom into account and acknowledge it. Leon's kind of an inquisitive guy. It makes sense that the game would consider his and the player's own curiosities. I think Leon would immediately go after Mendez, so it would be weird if he was just gone or you couldn't enter the room. Leon has a lot to say about pretty much everything you can interact with, and shit, I would too. I've never been out of the country. I've never met the president's daughter. I have been tied to a Mexican before, though. It's a funny story, actually. You see, me and a coworker had a delivery once, and when we were crossing the border, I'm assuming this is a carryover from when the game was being developed into what became Devil May Cry. This isn't anything new, but Leon and Dante are really similar. I think they'd get along. Maybe this is just me trying to find connection when there isn't any, but this kind of sleepy, cinematic look the games have feel indicative of each other. RE4 adapts this sense with these immersive, missable scenes and QTEs, but DMC's camera is really purposefully placed at all times. The way it follows Dante when you walk slowly or bends and turns in certain areas is a nice iteration on the old fixed stationary shots of RE. It reminds me a bit of the camera sway from Maximo, another Capcom game from the same generation. DMC1's camera thankfully never really gets in the way even when it swaps to a different angle either. It's always upholding a theatrical look to make you feel as cool as possible. This tone is compounded with Dante's dialogue conveying things about his character that get expanded upon later, like his views on the family structure or just his general impatience. RE4 and DMC are also pretty silly. I was taking DMC1 straight-faced up until Dante does that little over Trisha's body and the game keeps going for like an extra 15 minutes. As dumb and rushed as it is out of nowhere, there's something so cathartic about seeing the plane fall into the room and knowing its position is accurate relative to where it actually was in the castle. Plus, I can forgive the tone. DMC is just like that.
I'm absolutely crazy about it!
This tiny little escape sequence before the last fight is also really satisfying. I don't know why more games don't do this. Challenging the player to recognize their environment under a tense time constraint backwards is such a simple yet effective design idea. I can't really think of any games that do it besides this. Oh shit! I didn't know you could immediately switch weapons in DMC1 until 2/3 through the game, but honestly, even after I found out, I never used it. There's something really committal about needing to open the pause menu, scroll around to the weapon you want, and actively selecting it. Sure, it's a faster option to just quick switch, and it's better for combat flow and expression, but I don't know, I can't help myself. Pause menu switching like this helped me get a better sense of how each weapon worked individually. I definitely learned more about the application of them all through trial and error because of this. It's a result of me never wanting to go back into the menu to switch again when something wasn't working out, yeah, but considering my playstyle, mastering one weapon set worked out better than acquainting myself only a bit with all of them. If pause menu switching was necessary, it would probably be called archaic, but come on. They made these fancy animations for this screen and this screen only. It hits a nice node in my brain to see these shitty VFX explosions on selecting the grenade launcher. Resident Evil 4's weapon switching actually is locked to the pause menu exclusively, and it encourages the player to manage their inventory well. Not only that, but it also makes it imperative you remember your surroundings. Since there's no quick switch and you're constantly needing to switch, you'll need to place all your weapons in a way where they're easily accessible, ideally through the minimum amount of button presses. The more time it takes to switch to the desired weapon, the hazier your memory gets of your exact position and situation in game. Figuring this out is on part of the player. It's never explained to you, and it really forces you to covet the gameplay flow. Can't shoot these guys in the head quick. Pause and menu as expertly as you can to your shotgun and keep playing. Okay, shoot! I think if RE4 had quick switching, it'd probably be an immediately more satisfying game, but without it, it's a lot more intriguing. I don't think either form of weapon switching is bad or anything, I just think it depends. DMC1 is a pretty slow game compared to its later entries, so if something like DMC5 forced you to enter another menu just to switch styles, it would be annoying. Maybe I'm just bad, but it doesn't seem like there's tons of ways to interestingly string weapon applications together in DMC1. Compare this to something like Lost Judgment, where the combat structure revolves entirely around carrying your enemy through your fighting styles, and a quick switch is pretty necessary. Lost Judgment's combat is super snappy because of this, albeit at times a little thoughtless, something DMC never is. Unless you're playing at a higher difficulty, which I recommend, you'll breeze right through Judgment. Yakuza's always sort of prioritized that pizzazz though, so all's forgiven. Lost Judgment beats out all the Yakuzas though because you can skate in it. And you know what though, Yagami's kinda bad at skating. You know, this is a little gay, but every time I'm out cruising on my skateboard, I can't help but think about Sonic. When I first got my board, I asked my boy Josh to tighten the trucks up, but the turning ended up being way too stiff. I had to lean really far onto my board to get any turn on it at all, and it just didn't feel natural considering my speed. I told the guy, listen you better loosen these up now or else I'm quitting skating for good. My threat really got to him, and he loosened them up a bit. It feels a lot better now. Pressuring my board results in a much wider, gradual turn, and it's a lot more natural. Yeah, Sonic should control like this. He turns so quick in all the games, I wish he didn't. In Adventure 2, it's like giving him whiplash anytime I touch the stick, and Frontiers just isn't wide enough. Frontiers tries to implement my ideal with these physics options, but even with everything set how I like, something feels off. Leaving integral control values like this up to the player is really lazy. Sonic doesn't feel nearly as polished as he should on foot. There's so much space here, and Sonic is so fast. Why are his turns so tight? Is it just so I can draw on the ground? Who cares? It's not that hard to draw a couple of circles. That's all you can fucking draw anyway. Unleashed gets it right with these smooth drifts. This is all Frontiers really needed. He almost feels like a car in Unleashed. He even makes a rubber burn noise. I wish he always felt like this if they're gonna commit to boost. In fact, in some ways, I wish he felt like he had roller skates on. Jet Set Radio gets this turn radius thing right. The feedback between speed, animation, and actual control feels perfect. Most of the game doesn't focus on how it feels to skate, though. There's a lot of odd verticality and weird parkouring, it's just not all there. Hopefully Bomb Rush Cyberpunk gets the feeling of skating right. That game looks like an intense mix of Tony Hawk, JSR, and its own thing. It's even got that parkour, acrobatic, on-foot spin shit. It's a shame. The JSR kids probably busted their ass to learn how to skate like this. They fucking dance in their skates. I'm not even gonna try that shit. I'm really excited for Bomb Rush, by the way. I think everyone sort of decided they want more JSR, but thankfully Bomb Rush doesn't seem to be that. Sure, aspects of its marketing imply itself in that way, but this feels like a kind of filter, or at most a magnet for an audience. It's got the roller skating, Naganuma, and low poly style, but I feel like people have been focusing a lot on the surface level similarities to JSR in their hype towards this game. Team Reptile are so obviously building their own thing with an iteration and inspiration of what they love, and I'm there for it. The Lethal Leagues are awesome, and this headfirst dive into something with an increased scope is really ambitious and exciting. Inspiration and iteration are words newer crowd-pleasing games like Hi-Fi Rush don't seem to understand. Hi-Fi has all the balls to claim it loves what you do, but none of the brains to prove it. Everything I like about Hi-Fi is so far away from the game itself that I end up attaching to the characters from the evil within more than the ones in the actual story. At this point, I honestly don't even remember why I brought up the game in the first place. Something about Shinji Mikami? Something, marketing, games discussion, Fucking tutorials. Why the fuck was I talking about tutorials? Anyway, yeah, look at this. Like, hey, dipshit, you know how to press the X button to a metronome? No? Well, here's a visual, bro. I mean, I really shouldn't be complaining considering I paid next to nothing for the game, but... Oh. Whoa, Game Pass isn't $1 anymore? Man, time flies, I guess. Anyway, yeah. For a game about keeping on time, Hi-Fi Rush sure does love to eat up yours. It's one thing to spread out unlockable mechanics or moves over the course of your game, and another to make them all so situational that you have to make your player read a mini children's book every time like it's Frog and Toad. You know, at least Frog and Toad has characters I can relate to. They're gay. Sorry, I mean, fucking wokies!
SpongeBob, he's gay. I know he's gay.
I'm not trying to say modern tutorials that halt the gameplay flow like this ruin a game. There are in a bunch of great new games. Judgment comes to mind. Judgment? Why do I feel like I'm... Oh, yeah, Pizza Tower. I don't know, I didn't really play it. I turned it on once because I borrowed it off of my friend on Steam, but I didn't even beat the game. I don't know. It looks cool.